Welcome to the Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin with your hosts, Don McCauley and Danielle Hampson.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming the program author Richard W. Connelly Sr., and he is the author of Bloodline Detective. Richard, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Good morning to you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I live in Denver, North Carolina. I am originally from Connecticut. I'm 69 years old, and I am semi-retired at this point.
Tell us about this book.
Well, it's been years since I've developed the idea that I would like to put my journey in life, growing up as an orphan and reaching out at the age of 37 to find my biological roots. And with the express support of many people I've conversed with about my story, they said, this has to be in script. You have to write a book about this. The irony of how you found your mother long before the internet with only a first name is really ironic and astronomical to be able to do that.
So who did you write this book for specifically?
I wanted to share my journey and my story and my experiences with a great populace of adopted or orphan children who have yet to find out where their roots are. I felt I did not write it just for my own satisfaction. I wanted to share this journey and give hope, perseverance, and inspiration to those who are seeking their biological roots and yet have no information on it.
Now, would you say there's any type of central message or perhaps underlying theme that you could say runs throughout the book?
There is. I have three titles, I believe, are themes for this book that the orphan or adopted children and families alike would align with. One is inspiration. It's very inspirational. Perseverance, never to give up, even though the roadblocks are many when you start this search. And another is recovery, because alcohol is also a part of my journey and my life that I have found recovery in, and it allowed me to enjoy the fruits of my journey and to put it into writings.
If you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea you're sharing in this book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
I believe the three gifts I received from this are the ability to recover from alcoholism. That was an essential part of my childhood of lack of confidence, insecurity that came from the lack of knowledge of my roots, my biological beginnings, and actually who conceived me, where did I come from. I had no knowledge of this being adopted at a late age of 6 years old.
If you could compare this book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
I think while this book was completed and as it was completed, I find a very much likeness to the movie illegitimate. There is a very much of a parallel in there, even though it is reversed role where the adult was seeking the child, I was seeking the family and the mother who gave birth to me. So there is very much of a parallel to that movie.
What was your reason for going out there and seeking your roots at such a late age?
At first, I always had the hidden desire within me to find out who did I look like, where did I come from, what was my biological roots, the history. But at the age of 37, I was experiencing some health issues that really troubled me. I was overweight. I was in a very stressful part of my life, and I was having health symptoms that the doctors were referring to or reflecting to as a possible heart condition. And all the time during my child and adult life, even through the military, it was always asked upon me, do you have a history of this or that? Having no history whatsoever, and the expressive or the concern I may be troubled with a heart condition, I decided then that I would take it upon myself to seek out my biological roots and find out if I was carrying any gene to be concerned about. And once I did that, Pandora's box opened up for me. I just drove forward to find out every bit of information I could on my biological roots.
What kind of hurdles did you face as you went through this?
I did this long before the internet, long before there was any type of connection through the cyber electronic age. And all I had was a first name of the woman that gave birth to me, and also only the first name of the man who fathered me. Every agency I went to was very quiet, very non-receptive to my desire to find my biological roots. The paperwork, the cases were all hidden. They were all locked, sealed, and the only identification I could get was the exact birth date, which is true, the one I celebrate, and where I was born, the state, the city, and again, the biological first names only. Everyone that I approached politically or in an administrative factor that I knew or approached them with a sincere effort turned me down saying, I had no right to that information. That case is sealed. That information is not available, and you have to live with what you know.
What kind of disappointments did you experience?
The disappointments were many. The roadblocks were huge. I went to the orphanage I grew up in. They had no records. Being brought up in a Catholic orphanage, they suggested I go to Catholic Family Services. They had no records. They had no involvement because they are not an adoptive or adoption agency. I finally addressed the state of Connecticut to find out if I had more than one birth certificate, which I did, but that was squashed. They would not give me any information on that. I went to a probate judge who was a friend of my father who brought me up. He would not submit any information. He said, again, it's not my right. Every person I approached with sincerity and not trying to pry into anybody else's privacy told me I had no right to look this up until I reached the state of Connecticut and found out superficial genealogical information, biologically, again, only the first names and ages of the parents that conceived me.
So what were your expectations?
My expectations were to find out, first of all, my biological history as far as health, what the family structure was like, whether I was in jeopardy of carrying a gene. Once I found that it was not to be a factor, that the heart was not the issue, I found that my energy and my interest grew. It grew by leaps and bounds. When somebody offered me the information of a first name of a woman who was a certain age when she gave birth to me, my math characteristics and talents got in gear, and I finding out that she was a high school graduate, I started acting like the Paul Drake of Perry Mason in a private eye mode and openly went searching for this person who gave birth to me. I found it to be exciting. The roadblocks were, as a Marine Corps vet, were not to stop me, and I wanted to pursue this further. My goals were to find out as much as I could from what I believed to be a woman who had long passed away, only to find out that she was still among the living.
So what were the actual methods you used to eventually nail this down?
I took my biological mother's age when she had me, deducted that into the year which she was born, her age, found out the year that she was born. I added 17 years to that for a potential high school graduating class, went to that high school which had changed names to find the 1925 yearbook, only to be amazed, surprised, and given one hurdle that was the only yearbook missing. I felt that the classes back in 1925 were that small that if I had a first name, there would maybe be 1, 2, possibly 3 with that name, with the classes being that small. To my amazement, that yearbook was missing. I looked at the 1924 yearbook. I just opened it up. There was a Glee Club picture with the exact name of my biological mother's first name, curly hair, all the characteristics given to me, but that was nothing to bear any fruit. So what I did was contact the school administrator, and without fibbing or giving them any facade, I told them I was trying to put through a family tree and gave them the first name and the year she graduated. Again, that was an estimate on when she graduated, but I was head on. I hit it right on the exact year.
So if you had to choose, what part of this book would you say you personally like best?
I think the most exciting part of this book was that hurdle I mentioned about the yearbook and telling the administrator what I was seeking and them calling me back and finding out and giving me a first, middle, and last name. I then guesstimated what year she would have gotten married based upon the knowledge that there were 5 other children born of this woman before me and what their ages were. I guessed on when she would have gotten married. I took that and applied to the Hall of Records to find out what her marriage name could be. Having used one political inference or suggestion on rooting this thought process, I found her marriage name. To my amazement, I found then, while serving in the United States Postal Service, I had delivered mail to my biological mother's house and never knew it was her.
Other than selling the work, of course, is there anything else you hope to accomplish with it?
I think this inspiration that has contacted, and if I may, in a reflection or response to Bloodline Detective, I have found that it has hit the age group of anywhere from 25 to 70, and that is 80% female. I found that there is a huge populace of adopted children who have always sought or had curiosity or what avenue can be taken to find their biological roots, if not to meet, but to find out where they came from. I have a book signing right after this show with a woman that has read my website and is ecstatic because she's in the same situation. She's 38 years old, and she feels that this would be a benchmark or a blueprint for her. She's read the website and found a lot of inspiration to never give up. In fact, I was 37 years old when I first met my biological mother.
Time is getting very short, so the most important question, where can readers buy this book?
Readers can buy this book directly off my website at www.bloodlinedetective.com. It can be purchased at createspace.com in paperback or on amazon.com in paperback and Kindle download format, and also for iPad.
Could you spell your name for us, please?
It's Richard W. Connelly, Connelly.
Well, this has been just great. Our guest today has been Richard W. Connelly, Sr., and he is the author of Bloodline Detective. Richard, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity of being on your show.
This is Don McCauley wrapping up another edition of The Author Show. Listen to some of your favorite authors every day, 24/7, by visiting theauthorshow.com. Just click on the book title and the player at the top of the page. These interviews are available to book buyers worldwide on demand. If you'd like to be a guest on the show and feel you could benefit by getting in front of your target audience with a high-quality media interview that will make a real impact, visit www.theauthorshow.com, fill out the form, and we may be contacting you shortly. Join us here next time for another great book and another exciting author on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-955-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.